So I have a lot that I plan on doing for this year. I'm talking to, it's going to be the biggest, I don't know about the best, but the biggest camp season that we do this year. Already have a lot of amazing guest instructors. But really the main thing is just to keep growing, you know, keep getting better. I do want to, you know, take care of my health a little more. As I'm getting older, I'm 54 now, things I've noticed getting harder. I went to the doctor the other day, they said I have a high blood pressure. It's like I'm the chillest guy I know. And I'm like, how did that happen? You know, so that means I've got to exercise, drop some weight, eat less sugar, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I don't want to do that just because it's 2019. I need to do it because I need to do it, you know. So I don't know what a good answer for that is. The answer is yes and no.
Yeah. First off, I'd just like to say it's an honor being your presence, and to be honest, I'm sure to everybody else. But my question was, your opinion, what are some good qualities in a good musician?
What are, in my opinion, you said, what are some qualities that are in a good musician?
Yeah,
a great musician. I'm gonna pose that question to you. What are some qualities to you, in your opinion, of a great musician?
Practice, patience, and perseverance.
Practice, patience, and perseverance. Really, really good. I'm gonna make it simpler and easier in my approach. What is a quality of a good friend? Don't think music, just a good friend.
They're there for you.
Keep going.
They're there for you. They understand you, and they
listen to you.
Yeah, exactly. And they listen to you.
Right. So now this is what I want in a musician, right? Because a person who practices it but it hasn't played out live sounds like they practice. Practicing doesn't make a good musician. No more than practicing English makes you somebody I want to listen to, right? So practice is a part of it, but it's a smaller part of it, right? In other words, it can, but doesn't really take a whole lot of practice to be a good friend, to listen. Now you can become better at it through practice. But for me, when I'm looking for a musician, I am literally looking for a friend. If I look for the qualities in a friend, what'd you say? They know who you are. They understand you. They listen to you, but they also accept who you are. Good and bad, they're still there for you. You said they're there for you. Good or bad, right? So imagine if I want, like, okay, I have a young kid here. What's your instrument? He's a guitar, so I hire him to play a guitarist. And he's not as experienced, right? I could shoot him down and treat him rude, and right? But that's not what a good friend will do. I want to be a good musical friend to hear. So even if we're on stage and he's not up to standard, I'm going to make sure you don't know that. You will not know he's a beginner, or we might call a rookie, or less experienced. I'm going to make sure you don't know. After the gig, we may have a talk and say, hey man, go work on this. But during the gig, it's my job to lift him up, to make you love him, right? Most of us practice, and I think it's safe to say most of us practice so that we get better, so that I can say, look at me and show you how good I sound. The people who work a lot know how to make someone else sound better, and that's what they practice. So when you look at the liner notes on the records and you start seeing the same names, like it used to be James Jamerson on bass, Chuck Rainey, and all these guys, Duck Dunn, Carol Kay. You'd see their names on all these records. But they're not taking bass solos. They're making Aretha Franklin sound good. They're making Otis Redding sound good. They're making, right? To me, that's the real skill. That's the real friend who's gonna make you better. So that's a long answer to say, whatever qualities you're looking for in a good friend, look for those in a musician.
Thanks, Victor. Before you picked up an instrument, is there a single performance or maybe a collection of performances that inspired you to pick up an instrument?
He's asking me before I picked up an instrument, was there something that inspired me, a performance or whatever? And my situation, that's funny to me because my situation is so different. You know, I was literally born into a band. No joke. I'm the youngest of 5 brothers who needed a bass player. Literally. So when I was born, the bass was waiting. I do not remember not playing an instrument. The earliest I can remember playing an instrument was 2. But I wasn't really playing the instrument. I was holding an instrument while I was learning to play music. Okay? The same way, that question to me is saying, hey, before you learned English, was there anything that inspired you to talk? You know what? It's a funny question, but the question's funny to me because I started that young. I know most people didn't. So most people get inspired, they see a band, whatever. I want to play music now. What inspired me were my brothers. I'm the youngest of 5 boys, so I had 4 older brothers. And every little sibling, whether you want to admit it or not, we look up to our older siblings. Doesn't matter if we have an older sibling. Who you looking at? Your mother, right? Right? It's the truth. We look up to our older siblings. So if you have a little brother, be aware of what you're doing, saying, thinking, because your little brother or sister is looking up to you. Right? So I had 4 older brothers. When I was born, they were playing music. How was I not going to play? So that's the real answer to your question. The same way you learned English as your first language, inspired by those around you. Right? But were you really thinking about it so much? You know, no, you just did it because everybody else was doing it. And the real key is that everyone else allowed you to do it with them when you were learning English. No one treated you as a beginner and a baby, told you to go practice. My brothers never did that to me musically. Now, I can share with you some very high-powered, inspirational, influential concerts, but I was already playing. I saw James Brown in 70 and 71, right? Which means I was in kindergarten and 1st grade, but I remember it. When I was 5, the 5 of us brothers were the opening band for Curtis Mayfield's Superfly tour. We were living in Sacramento and we toured up the West Coast as his opening band when I was 5. My older brother Reggie, who is around this part somewhere, he says I turned 6 on that tour. Inspirational. I remember opening for War, the band War with Lee Oscar and B.B. Dickinson and all these guys as a kid. I remember that. I was maybe 5 or 6. Inspirational because these are your heroes. You know, I grew up listening to James Brown, War, and The Temptations, and all of a sudden we're sharing the stage with your heroes. That's inspirational, right? But I was lucky enough to have been born, literally, and I mean it literally, born into a band. So I've never not played.
When you were younger and you'd have a surprise gig that you couldn't really prepare for and you had to improvise, would you stick to what you know or kind of let it flow and see what happens?
So again, the question is, if I had a surprise gig, that you couldn't prepare for, how did you handle it? Did you stick to what you know, or what was the other part?
Just whatever.
Basically, how do you handle that? That's what preparation is for, right? That is exactly what preparation is for, right? Because you don't always know what's going to happen, even when you think you do. So yeah, you're relying on preparation, but it's also, you're relying on the moment. Okay, and here's what I mean by this. We're all good at it because even if we've never met, we can sit down and have a conversation, right? We don't practice the conversation. I don't say, hey, Phoenix, man, when I see you today, say these things to me because I've been working on these words, you know, or whatever. You just start talking, and it's because of all the talking you've done that allows it to work. Right? We talk with an instrument, but we put 0 attention on it, right? I want to be musically the same way. I want 0 attention on that bass guitar. When I play, I don't want you listening to the bass, right? The bass, his guitar sounds exactly like this. That's what it really sounds like. Nothing. It only sounds beautiful when he plays it. The beauty comes from him, not the guitar. Right? So why would I listen to the guitar when it really sounds like nothing? I want to listen to him. Right? It's him expressing through the guitar the same way we express through our mouth. Right? But you don't say, I speak mouth. Who cares about the instrument? It's music we're playing. Right? So I don't want you listening to the instrument. So it's all that preparation. And one of the biggest things I prepare for is to take my attention off that instrument. The same way we quickly learn to take the attention off of our mouth. Right? So it's all the preparation. But let me get back to the moment. The moment. Now we have to have good ears. Right? There are things that you can prepare for to make the unprepared for situations easier. Having good ears, okay? And not only good ears, but fast ears. Ears that respond quickly. And again, you already have them, because else we couldn't talk to each other. If you couldn't assimilate what I said and get your response ready, you don't even think about it. That's how good you are. I want to get good like that in music, right? Learn to read. You learn to read. If you can read and someone has charge, you're prepared. You're prepared if you can read the charts, right? That helps you prepare for a situation you're not ready for, a surprise situation, you said. If you can read, if you can improvise, okay? If you can improvise, doesn't mean you got to take a good solo. But if I'm reading the chart and I get lost, I'm in improv world right now.
That's what I meant.
Right? So practice improving. Practicing improving does not mean practice soloing. It doesn't mean that. That do are working. Right? The rest of us are posting licks online. Right? The people working don't have time to post it. Right? So learn how to come up with bass lines. That's a great way to practice improving, right? So anyway, those are some things. I could talk all day on that one. I like that question. How to prepare for the things you're not prepared for. Yes, ma'am.
Just a quick question, kind of going off of his. How do you work with a musician?
A sibling, or even more kids who you feel are completely bombing and not there, right? Most of us as musicians will tune out and try to move away. But if it's your sibling, your child, you are going to tune in and move closer, right? There's no way you're going to tune out. If you're on stage with me, you're my sibling. And if you're bombing, I'm going to do everything I can do to make sure they don't know it. I'm going to do everything I can do to lift you up. Give you an example. I'm playing with Chick Corea Electric Band. For some reason, John Patitucci wasn't there and he calls me. I can't play like John Patitucci. My first thought was, man, this music, John plays a 6-string. Maybe I should play my 6-string bass. I'd be so uncomfortable playing a 6-string bass. So I played my 4. Then at rehearsal, Chick calls this one song I was unprepared for. I'm really good when I can hear the changes. One of my biggest ways of preparing for music, for a gig, is to listen to the songs over and over. The same way a kid would learn a Michael Jackson song within 3 times. I want to get there. I do that before looking at the chart or anything. I want it on the inside. We're practicing a song with Chick Corea, and it's a ballad that John Patitucci can kill on, and I was sucking royally at this rehearsal, right? I'm soloing. Actually, I'm going to switch to when it was happening on stage, because I wasn't much better on stage. I was a little better, I'll say that. I'm soloing on this song, and I look at Chick to say, I give him the nod, meaning my last chorus. And I'm looking at Chick. Chick looks back at me and says, he's like, no, you're not ending. Fix this. right? He could have let me out, but he starts feeding me information. And I'm hearing it, and I'm like, wow. This is empathetic now. This is a man that, he's not like, man, I should have gotten John. He's like, let me help you. And he fed me and carried me through that solo, and at the end, I got the applause. All right? Now that's a high-level musician. That's a parent. That's what you would do for your child. But in musician, we have these attitudes where if you're not good enough, I don't want to play with you. Right? If you're not good enough, I do want to play with you because I have to be better to make sure they don't know you're not good enough. If I'm the Victor Wooten you think I am, shouldn't I be able to play with anybody? Or only Dennis Chambers? Only I want to play with anybody. But to be able to play with that person and make sure you don't know it, make sure it sounds good anyway, I have to be better. So I treat it as a challenge to myself. That's how I handle it. Who was that? Yeah.
You tell me. I'm a guitar player, and that's my daughter. She plays bass, I play guitar. The thing that you were saying earlier about, like, if you're good enough, if you're not good enough, if you make mistakes, when regular people, and that means all of us, we hear our idols and they make mistakes, it's kind of like, that's cool, man. They're human. But when you don't make mistakes, they're like, man, these guys are like gods. They don't miss a note. They're like robots. So when you make a mistake, it's kind of like, okay, that's cool. Yeah.
Can anybody name a musician who doesn't make mistakes? Who? Jeff Beck. Ask Jeff.
Axl Rose.
Are you saying, what are you saying?
I was saying that Jeff Beck has totally made mistakes.
Jeff Beck totally makes mistakes. See, the thing is, here's the thing. Being human means making mistakes. There is no way to not make mistakes. Jeff Beck is just so good at turning that mistake into something positive that you like it anyway. Right? So here's the thing. For most people, a mistake means playing the wrong note. But if you play the wrong note with the right rhythm, the right tone, the right dynamics, the right feel, it will not sound wrong. Right? So I've heard Jeff Beck do what he would call a mistake. I wouldn't call it a mistake because I still liked it. Right? But does it always come out the way he wants? I guarantee no. Does he really care? I can guarantee no. Because in the big picture, the mistake is so little. Right? We amplify the mistake, not the audience. The audience doesn't hear it. Even if they did, it's gone now. For us, we're still living. 2 weeks later, we're still thinking about it. Right? Jeff Beck, I don't know him well, but I'm pretty sure he's beyond all of that. And because he's beyond that mistake he just made, you don't even hear it. Right? But there's so many things going on when we play music. Rhythm, tone, phrasing, all this kind of stuff. That missing a note is such a small detail. So anyway, to answer that question, there aren't any musicians who don't make mistakes. We all do. You will for the rest of your life. The key is not trying to make mistakes, but how to deal with them once we make them. Musicians do not practice that. Right? We make a mistake, we stop. No, go through it. Not in the beginning. In the beginning, make a mistake and stop and figure out. But once you know the song, practice recovering from your mistake. Right? Think about this. In sports, a basketball team. Right? Imagine a basketball team that played as if every shot was going to go in. Imagine that. They would lose every game. But because the basketball team knows they're going to make mistakes, they prepare for them. They practice them. They call it rebounding. Right? And they even have people that's what they specialize in, covering mistakes. They practice it. At practice, they'll miss shots on purpose just so they can practice recovery. right? Musicians are some of the only groups of people that I know who never do that, right? Football players, they practice recovering fumbles, right? In stocks or money, they know what they're going to do if they don't reach their quota this season, this month, or whatever. But musicians, we don't practice recovery, right? One other thing about mistakes, and then we'll probably have to stop soon, but one other thing about mistakes, this is my approach to it. How long have you been playing? 4 years? How much do you think you know about music? Not that much? Okay, I've been playing 52 years. I still don't think I know that much about music, right? So, why would I ever not want to make a mistake? Meaning, I only want to do what I know when I already know I don't know much. Why do I only want to do what I know when my brain's the size of a grapefruit and I don't know much about music? Think about that. Maybe there's a part of us, maybe music herself, knows more about music than me. So maybe my mistake is something pushing me in a different direction, getting me outside of myself, because I don't know much, right? So when you can take your mistake, the same way if you only know one way home from work and that road is closed, you got to take another avenue. And in taking that other avenue, you're going to learn a whole lot. So if I can take my mistake and go with it, turn it into something else, I will improve a lot more and a lot faster than if I had gotten it perfect. Mistakes is where the growth is, right? Mistakes is where, that's why a baby falls over and over before they learn to walk. And now it's hard to fall, right? It doesn't mean you don't lose your balance, but it's hard to fall. It's because you've fallen so much. So never be afraid of mistakes. I embrace them. I love them because now I get to surprise myself, right? Oh, I didn't know that was coming out. That's a joy, you know? So anyway, you'll never stop making mistakes. So just learn how to deal with them. Maybe one more question? I mean, I can if you want me to.
Yeah.
You want me to play something?
It'd be great if you can make some mistakes for us.
Oh, I make a living out of making mistakes. Okay, they say they want me to play something. I'll do that. I didn't know I was supposed to do that. A quick question for you. Music's a huge thing, right? Everybody, give me one word to describe music. What is music to you?
Relaxing.
Beauty. What is it?
Relaxing.
Relaxing. What's music? Passion, love, life, heart. I see it. Love, creativity, light, life. Here's the thing. Notice that you don't say music is theory, scales, techniques. Nobody even mentioned an instrument, right? If that's what music is, that's what you should be playing, not the guitar. Nobody even mentioned guitar, did they? Because we know that those are tools. That's not what we're trying to play. The tools are a vehicle, right? So if you can remember what music is to you, that's what your audience will hear. And then the mistakes become a part of that, right? When you walk, you trip, you don't back up and retake those steps. The trip might even get you there faster, right? So embrace your mistakes.